My full name is Raymond Anton Benedict Valenciano Sison, which is like the most Filipino thing ever. So my nickname is Rob, which is just the initials from all those names, RAB. And that is what my parents and my friends that grew up with me, that's what they call me. As I got older, I kind of would use different names. Then when I went to college, I started using Raymond more. Like at first I thought I was having an identity crisis because I really feel like I'm using a different name with different groups of people. But as I got older and like got more confident in who I am, I just realized like having these different names is just like a marker of who knew me when. I actually love it. I love that Filipinos do it. I think it's so cute, like that all our little names. Some of them are not even related at all to like what our actual name is. It's like a very familiar way to know someone is by their nickname. I just love that.
How do your roots inspire your work?
Just being a first generation part of an immigrant family, I think it's a different, unique identity that Filipino-Americans have, and I'm only one generation off. There's Filipinos that have been here for generations and generations and generations, and that very close connection that they have with the Philippines has kind of been stretched over time. You have your feet in two different worlds, and you're really trying to just find authenticity in that. Growing up, I was often too Filipino to be American in the spaces here, and then some of the first times I visited back in the Philippines, I was like, I felt out of place too because, I'm an American. I grew up with, how we talk, how we do things out here. And I also felt out of place there when I first went out there. It's really just like finding authenticity in that very unique identity of just being part of the diaspora here in America. Just understanding how I view being Filipino. Some people might not view it as authentically Filipino, but it's just how I've come to understand who I am and my heritage. I'm Filipino. I've been raised in diaspora. I've only learned about my culture through the stories that my relatives have told me and just being intentional about learning about my history, how Filipinos got here, learning my family's history and the stories that they've told. I kind of feel like I'm in a place now where I'm just really affirmed in that and I don't feel any shame in a lot of these spaces I'm in, whether I'm in American spaces or Filipino spaces. I'm just me. I'm just happy I could be 100% me and feel accepted in these spaces. It's definitely been a journey, but it's been a very gratifying one.
How does that duality reflect the work that you do?
Outside my 9 to 5, I've started my own fashion brand, and I am basically mixing worlds, and I'm just trying to offer the most authentic version of myself. I use a lot of hand-woven material, textiles from the Philippines called Inabel, which I have on these pants here. I use piña, which is a textile from the Philippines. I use a lot of hand-woven textiles from the Philippines called Inabel, which I have on these pants here. I use piña, which is is a textile from the Philippines, made from pineapple fibers and used in more traditional pieces like the barong. So I'm just mixing these things with what I've grown up with here in America, which is just big on streetwear, having like sweats, having big graphic tees, having airbrushed things, and just mixing these things together to offer who I am most authentically is what I've been doing with this fashion brand, especially with this first capsule I dropped. Is just I'm really just putting myself out there and just like with textiles, with fabric, and that is what I'm really doing, and I'm telling my story that way. And I feel like I'm offering the most authentic version of myself when I'm putting these pieces out there, and it's just really a reflection of my story and my journey and my affirmation of my identity and just loving myself and like showing my community like this is where I come from, this is who's built me up, and I just really want to put that out there just for people to see, and then hopefully that inspires someone else to kind of look at their own journey, find authenticity in their own identity and how they express themselves. And yeah, that's really what I've been trying to do with fashion and with clothing and putting myself out there just so people are inspired to find authenticity in themselves and their own experiences.
Are there specific Ilocano values guiding your business decisions now?
I just talked to my mom about this, and I apologize if I'm butchering this because I didn't speak Ilocano or Tagalog growing up, but it is being thrifty, or in Ilocano, nasali met met. Am I saying that right? It's just being thrifty. And I think this comes from it's very specific place for Ilocanos because the land in Ilocos Norte, it was hard to farm in. It's incredibly hard to farm in. You are right on the sea and then you have big mountains. So that history of just agriculture in the area kind of resonated with the values of being Ilocano because you had to make use of all the resources you had. That really is a big driving force in what I'm doing now because I use a lot of repurposed fabrics. The piña for this barong that I made came from a barong shop in Manila, and it's just dead stock fabric that they couldn't use for their own production, but I figured I could use that for mine and, breathe new life into that. Just focus on sustainability. We only have a limited of resources. We can't just keep making and making and making and making things because that not only harms the planet, but it also harms a lot of the people who are making these clothing, like the clothing that we put on. A lot of the work that's being put into it is in factories based in South Asia, and that exploitation of just like these factory workers is something that I don't like seeing because you have these designers based in Europe and the US and everywhere, and they're using our labor to profit, and then not a lot of that is coming back to the people who are actually making the clothing. I want to reclaim that, pay homage to where I come from, the exploitation that my people have gone through from previous colonial powers, and just like put stuff out there that is eco-conscious, is focused on being ethical in production and not taking things for granted. That value of being thrifty is really the driving force behind my brand.
Why Allegria Studios?
My mom's mom, my Lola, her name is Allegria. She passed a few years ago to pancreatic cancer, and that was just a really hard thing for my family. I wasn't able to see her when she was going through that. I wasn't able to travel back to the Philippines. So this brand is really dedicated to her. She's the mama of the family. Her name means joy. That's what she resonated to all of us. She was joyful. She took care of everyone. She was a trailblazer for women in the Philippines. She was the first bank manager, regional manager for a bank out there in the Philippines, which is like a big thing for her generation. I mean, she was born in the 40s, and having this lens of gender equity like in her life and just like championing for other Filipinas and women in her own family was just something what she did. This brand is really dedicated to her, dedicated to my family, dedicated to this heritage, and that's why I named it Allegria Studios.
Have you ever been to the Philippines?
I've been there about 6 times, and the first time was in 2009. I just went there to visit family, and it was a really great experience. Like, a lot of Americans in general don't get to have that experience of going out of the country. I was just really grateful. My parents were able to get their US citizenship and then able to get their passport, and then we were able to finally visit all of the family that I had only known through stories, and then visiting them in 2009 was just really nice. You don't realize how much privilege you have here in America, and even as a person of color, even with immigrant parents, there is a certain level of privilege that we have here that people in the Philippines don't have, and I think it was really grounding for me to see how other people live and just having a really deeper, more intimate connection with the roots that I come from, and like all this family that they're so proud of what my family's been able to accomplish here, and just seeing them and just like kind of just enjoying each other's presence. It's really fulfilling and grounding. It's really helped me get that perspective of I'm Filipino, I was born here in America, but that's where my roots are. These are the people that have lifted my family up, and it's just a really grounding experience just to have the privilege to even fly there and just be with family.
What's your favorite memory from home?
We usually always go to the Philippines around Christmas time, which is just the best time to be in the Philippines because it's an absolute party. Everyone's together, everyone's eating, all the titas are like cackling, like it's just loud laughing, a lot of hitting each other. Just, Filipinos, we hit each other when we laugh, like that's what we do. And it was just so chaotic, but like in the best way ever. And honestly, that just having that moment with all my family and being surrounded by people that love you, just being around each other, it was just a beautiful memory to have, just like that chaos in like the best way possible.
How do you find alignment in working full-time and starting a business?
That is something I still struggle with. I don't know if that is even possible in this capitalist world we live in. because I gotta be honest. I only work 9 to 3 p.m. After working for a year at the organization I work for, it's an education fund out in the East Bay in San Francisco. I was kind of able to leverage a 9 to 3 position, letting them know I really care about my work-life balance, but also I have other things I want to explore outside of what I'm doing with my career, which 9 to 3 I do grant writing. I support the public education system there to find grants that support projects that support educators and students out there. But outside of that, I love fashion. I love it as a way to express myself, but also build a community around people who want to tell this story around, finding authenticity and identity, supporting Filipinos out here in California. So that alignment's hard to find. I mean, as soon as I get off at 3, I'm literally sewing and designing pieces until super late at night. I've been really struggling with burnout lately. I'm trying to remind myself about longevity. I don't have to hit it big right away. I'm still new in this game of fashion. I'm still learning every day. I don't have to be absolutely perfect right away. I could work towards a goal, and understanding that it's longevity that's going to be more fulfilling than really quick viral success. Having a mindset of longevity, having a mindset of growth has helped me stay grounded and not put so much pressure on myself. And I think that is something that happens to young people who are starting a business on the side, is that you put so much pressure on yourself to make it big, and a lot of that is unnecessary, and a lot of that's actually harmful to your business decisions because you are burning yourself out and you're not able to make good decisions. So I think having this growth mindset has been really important to me. And then also just being organized. I use my calendar for everything, and even for social events, 9 to 3 I have everything scheduled out. I'll do schedule out 3 to 5. I'll do sewing and designing and working on the brand, doing social media stuff, and then I'll schedule out time to hang out with my partner, and that's important to me. I'll hang out with friends, and that's extremely important to me, because if I don't have that, then I'll work till 4 in the morning on just clothing and stuff, and it's just, at the end of the day, that's not really helpful. And so I need all these aspects of life. I need relaxation. I need to be able to find gratitude in what I'm doing and just rest. So that's just really important to me, and I think that's what slow fashion is. It's not just being sustainable, it's not being eco-conscious, it's not just being ethical, but understanding that we are humans, we are multi-dimensional people. My whole identity is not wrapped around my work, it's not wrapped around my art. I am a multi-dimensional person. I need to make space for these things in my life so I can fill my own cup, and that way I'm able to give that story out to people. It's something I still struggle with, but I'm trying really hard to strike that balance. Hopefully down the line, I don't have to be working 9 to 9 p.m. Right now, it's just focusing on growth, focusing on the long run, and just making time for things that matter outside of work and art.